I want to talk about what's on everybody's mind right now. And what's on everybody's mind is the election and which party is going to affect us more when it comes to our finances. So, so it's kind of like everybody's either scared if they believe one way or another. But one thing I got to tell for the most part, yes, the election will affect us in the long term, more so on a larger scale than a smaller scale. But in the long run, it's not who's president that's going to make a big difference in your lifestyle. It's not who's president that's going to make a big difference on your life if your mindset is not where it's supposed to be. Because I see people's tax return, I see their finances, I also see how they live. And I have this unique perspective when it comes to that. I have the perspective that I can see the outside and the inside. And you know how they say keeping up with the Joneses? Like, a lot of people are keeping up with the Joneses. And part of the issue with keeping up with the Joneses today is that on social media, you only see the fanciness. I heard someone talk about this the other day, that years ago, the keeping up with the Joneses comes from us saying the neighbor next door. So you would see what your neighbor is driving, or what their house looks like, or what kind of party they're having, and it's intentional. But because they're your neighbor, you also see when they're fighting, beating each other up, or they're suffering from something. You see all sides of what's happening with your neighbor. So you understand that the Jones is just a normal person going through normal life, having normal problems. And everything is not a bed of roses. But now with social media, we think everything is a bed of roses because we only see the bed of roses. We see when they're going on their European vacation, or they tell us when their kid is going to an Ivy League school, or if their kid is, pooping money, whatever it is that they're doing, you see that just on social media. They don't tell you, when their kid got drunk at the fraternity house and had to be taken to the hospital, or they're not telling you that the car that they're driving is bankrupting them because it's $2,000 a month on a lease payment. So we think that the bed of roses that we're seeing is how everybody lives, and we don't realize that they still have the normal problems that normal people have. They still are struggling. All of us struggle with financial decisions. It is not even me, who's supposedly good with money and have a better money mindset. I struggle with my money mindset all the time, especially when we have the marketing geared towards us, geared towards you. You feel like they're in your mind. When I put a pair of shoes in Saks Fifth Avenue basket just because I'm looking around, I get at least 6 emails saying, "Are you ready to buy the shoes? Are you ready to buy the shoes? Are you ready to buy the shoes?" I used to be able to put stuff in my cart, and it's kind of like window shopping, and it satisfies me, but I don't go back and buy it. But now I'm reminded that I should go back and buy it, and it's all part of the market about the consumerism in life. Why do you think the economy now, if you are actually looking at pundits talk about the economy and how great the consumer is with the economy, the consumer is doing great, the consumer is spending, the consumer is doing this, it's spending because the marketing that is done on us. We're buying lots of crap that we don't need. We're not being intentional about our spending. The spending that's what's happening in our economy right now is mindless. And it's consumerism at its best, because the marketing is geared towards us spending money that not smart spending, not intentional spending. And what do I mean by intentional spending? Intentional spending, or intentional saving, or intentional investing is when you put thought into something. If you are thinking about what you're doing, you think about, okay, if I put this money in this account and it grows at whatever percentage, even if you're estimating a little bit, then okay, it's going to grow one step at a time. Like how I saved my kid's birthday money, and when my son was ready to go to college, I had $35,000 in his 529 to help him with his housing, which I paid for his housing for the first 2 years. And then I was able to buy a condo with that money that now is worth $100,000 more 3 years later. So people think that if you start small, you're never going to get to the spots that you need to get. But if you don't start at all, you're never going to get to those spots. So at least when you start small, you know, it's like a baby. The baby sits up, the baby turns over, the baby starts crawling, the baby walks. The baby eventually can become a marathon runner. But the baby cannot become a marathon runner without turning over, crawling, going to, you know, sit up, start walking, and then practice to get to that point. You never give up to that point. You keep pushing yourself, pushing. So you gotta start somewhere. It doesn't matter if it's your kid's birthday money or your Starbucks money. If you take that money and invest it and put it into an interest-bearing account, then it moves. That's intentional spending. That's intentional investing. That's intentional saving. Intentional spending is making an idea of what it is that you want to buy and what it is that you want to need. Wanting to buy something and needing to buy it are two different things. I can guarantee you that all the shoes and bags I have are a lot of wants and not a lot of needs. But I myself do have consumerism. How much gifts or how much thrilling euphoria that these things give me, it is very temporary. A lot of times you say, I want this, and you get it, and it's like, okay, I got it. What do I do? It's very short-lived. So you have to think intentionally. What do I need? What can I survive with? How can I be living in a minimalist situation at the beginning when I'm doing stuff? When I started working and in my 20s, yeah, I'm going to buy a shoe for $20 at Macy's because that's all I could afford. Yes, if I had bought a $200 or $300 pair of, I don't know, Tory Burch, it might last me a lifetime, or it might last me even longer, but I don't have that money and I'm not going to go into debt to do that. Although in the long run, that's a better choice, I still cannot invest there. Just like I might want to buy a commercial building right now, but I don't have the capital to buy the commercial building, so I might just have to buy a rental apartment instead. So, but I'm starting somewhere. Not because something is the best, you should be getting it depending on where you are in life. We do understand that, you know, something is a better quality over quantity is better, but sometimes the cost of being poor and the cost of being middle class and the cost of not affording something is less than the cost of paying interest on something that's a quality. So what do I mean by that? I mean that, let's talk about a purse, right? If I get a purse that I vetted and looked at it for $500, right? I can still, the good thing about America and having a middle class, I could buy a purse for $50, or I could buy a purse for $50, $500. I could buy a purse for $500 or $50. I'll have a purse to go out. So it's not like living in a third world where I can't have a purse at all. The $500 purse could be an investment. It could be a purse that it's from a good purse maker that is going to appreciate in value and it's going to last me a lifetime and things like that. If I could afford to buy that $500 purse, it would be great. Buying the $50 purse might only last me a year. But at this point, even though I'm going to have to buy $10, $50 purse within the next so many years, I still have to buy, the cost of me being poor is I still have to buy that $50 purse because that other $450 is better allocated somewhere else right now. It's better allocated to paying my rent, or better allocated into my Roth IRA or in my housing fund, whatever it is that is better allocated at that point. I might in the long run end up spending more money on purses, and I'm not able to invest in the purse for $500. But in the short run, it is a better option for me to buy that $50 purse. Eventually, I'll get to the $500 purse, which in the long run, that'll work out for me because that purse is going to go up in value, and I'm going to keep the purse for 10 years, so I don't have to spend $50 every year. But the $450 that I put in my housing fund will eventually help me to get my house first. So you have to prioritize. Yes, I would ideally like to invest in that $500 purse, but I can't do that right now because my priority is getting my first home. So instead of that, I'm going to buy that $50 purse for now, but I'm going to put the $450 in an ETF or an S&P 500 fund that's going to grow in the next 5 years. That's possibly going to be $2,000 in 5 years. Who knows? If it grows at the rate that it normally grows and I catch the medium of the market, then that's between 8 and 10% per year. So in the long run, my priority is to take that $500 and put $450 in the fund and buy my $50 purse. So you have to understand opportunity costs. So if you only have $500, how do you allocate that $500? You understand quality over quantity, but yet you cannot live that way right now because your priority is first to get your first home. It's first to save for your college fund. It's first to prioritize where your money should go. And then you're able to invest in quality things later. That's the price. That's the luxury of having wealth, is that you are in the long run going to save and better invest in yourself. But being poor or not having wealth, you are going to spend more money on lower price, lower quality thing in the long run, but you only have that set amount of money. And what are you going to do with it? You have to put it somewhere. So if that mindset is not with you, Donald Trump is not going to help you. Kamala Harris is not going to help you. The government is not going to help you. Nobody's going to help you, because there are people in this society right now that makes the same amount of money that you do, that is surviving on it. Whether you're making $500,000, $50,000, or $500,000, or you're making $100,000, there are people in this society that's surviving on that money. And it is up to you and your mindset where you want to go with that set amount of money that you have right now. I'm just saying, with what you have right now, you have to work with right now. That does not mean that your plans doesn't change and your attitude doesn't change later based on what you have later. But you can't build that unless you are actually building it. You're putting that aside to get to where you can buy the luxury items that's going to last you longer and in the long run save you more money.